Hi there, everyone. Hope you're well as can be after that. Rangers 4, Celtic 1. John is joining me, Hamish, on 67 Hail Hail. Let us know your thoughts on the game, anything you want to raise with us in the comments. John, what's your original early thoughts on that shambles?
Just not a surprise, really. I wouldn't have predicted a 4-1 defeat at the start, before the game, but the way it panned out, the cowardice of the Celtic display, the lack of any flexibility, the performance, the defensive errors, the lack of taking chances. It's the same old story, Hamish. It's the same story as we've seen all season.
We try not to be as reactionary as possible on this channel, as hard as that is on a reaction, live after the game, minutes after full time. And we try not to single out people either. I just think John Kennedy today had an absolute shocker, and I just think in his time as interim manager, he's had an absolute shocker. He's now taken charge of 8 games as interim manager. We've won 3 of them. We've lost twice meekly to Rangers. We've drawn with Rangers in one of the other ones. He's presided over several bad results, and once again today his limited tactical knowledge, and that's me being kind, was badly shown up. I know it's unfair to compare Kennedy to someone like Brendan Rodgers because they're in complete different worlds, but the difference in the way Rodgers reacted to us going down to 10 men at Ibrox to what happened with Kennedy today, where the team just completely lost all control of the match for the last hour. It just summed up what a poor interim manager we have. I don't hold out much hope for his future as a manager based on this evidence.
His interim reign has arguably made the situation at Celtic worse rather than better, and the minimum we could hope for was that we'd see a little bit of freshness, perhaps a look to next season, maybe playing some of the players who'll be here next season, playing some of the youth players, giving fans something to hang on to, make them believe a bit again in the Celtic team. I think he's made the situation worse. I think we're no clearer about what kind of squad we'll have next season, in terms of players who can step up from the fringes of the team. And he's just not given opportunities to those kind of players, and that's been the biggest disappointment for me. And he's not even got the results off the back of it. What was it, 3 from 8 that he's had? That's not good enough especially when you're playing the so-called big name players every single game, every single week, relying on the people who have failed us already this season. It's not good enough, and Kennedy will know that. I think any goodwill he has of remaining in any sort of role next season is quickly evaporating, and I think people want to see the back of him as much as they did Lennon at this stage.
He must have regrets. He must have regrets having come into the club as interim manager or come into the role after a 1-0 defeat at Ross County. I'd say quite literally, we couldn't get any more rock bottom than that. Clearly we could, but he must have regrets down to the fact that he's not done things his own way. He's just continued every bad thing that Neil Lennon's teams were doing. There's not one part of that team that he's improved. There's not one player that he's improved in his time at the club as interim boss. And as you say, 3 wins in 8. I mean, what was it at the start of the season? We kept saying this stat of 3 wins in 9, 3 wins in 10, as if it was this horrendous thing. That's happened about 3 or 4 times this season. We've gone through runs of winning 3 games in 8. This is Celtic Football Club, and we've just lost 4-1 at Ibrox. We've lost 4 out of 5 derbies to Rangers this season. We've not laid a glove on them in any game at all. It's just remarkable. I mean, if you don't cry, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
It's quite an achievement that the apathy going into this game was probably at an all-time high, or low, depending on how you want to put it, in terms of how little people cared about today's game. And then the anger people feel at full time tells a story. Somehow this Celtic team managed to let us down in new ways every single week. And it's really disheartening. And you think, he's played Scott Brown in almost every game, or he has played him in every game that he's been available for. That's not good enough. He's talking up Scott Brown every single week. I get that he's achieved a lot at the club, but the sentimentality that just surrounds Celtic at the moment is just sickening and not earned, in terms of looking towards the future and supposing to be a team that wants to be competitive at the top level. It's small club patter that's been coming from Celtic for the last 6 months. and that includes playing Scott Brown every week when you know that he's leaving to go to Aberdeen. Scott Brown played like a 35-year-old Aberdeen midfielder today, and that's not good enough for Celtic.
And Sorrow came on, and to be honest, Sorrow didn't look much better, and he passes the ball away for the final goal. Callum McGregor, don't know what the hell
abdication of responsibility. I mean,
that's a guy who could be captaining us next season.
He shouldn't be if he can't understand the situation that was developing there, and I think he kind of has time to think about that one. It's not like it's done rashly. He could see the situation developing and he dives in anyway, and it's a complete lack of responsibility. It's absurd.
And it's not as if he was booked 50 minutes earlier and he's maybe forgotten that. He's booked like 2 minutes before it as well, and he still lunges into a daft challenge. No complaints over it at all. And I've been a big fan of Callum McGregor, and I do think he'll be a good Celtic captain next season onwards. But that's a major worry in a game, not even a meaningful derby match, not even a full Ibrox, a full crowd that's going to, he could possibly use that as an excuse for getting caught up in the atmosphere. That is a meaningless end of season game with no fans in place, and he does something daft like that. You could honestly go through the whole team today. I don't want to do it because I quite simply don't think they even deserve us chatting about them because they're that gutless. One of the main kind of topics of conversation I've seen on social media has been how much of a turnaround's needed for us to be a force next season, to be a title contender next season. Lots of people seem to think that this is, has gubbed for a few years. What do you think of that notion?
A few years, I think, is a bit going overboard a little bit. And we've said a lot on the channel, things can change pretty quickly in football. It's hard to know now because Celtic have dragging their heels so much, and we have no idea what the squad's going to look like next season because John Kennedy's not given us any sort of belief that there's any sort of building towards next season at all. It's been complete self-preservation from a game-to-game basis in terms of eking out the most acceptable result from the worst possible scenario. I think he's tried to protect his own kind of reputation a bit. And so it's hard to say. I'm not making any judgments or calls about next season at the moment because it's impossible.
Fair enough. Anything else you want to raise for this? Because this may be our quickest video ever. Because as I say, I've got nothing else other than chucking people under the bus, Neil Lennon style. I've got nothing else to really add.
No, I think everyone probably wants to chuck John Joe Kenny up under the bus. I mean, again, he's a player. He's Everton's version of Anthony Ralston. So why would we not just play Anthony Ralston? That's what I see. And he's another on the loan scrap heap. Our loan signings this season have been horrendous. Shane Duffy, Diego Laxalt, John Joe Kenny. None of them are good enough, and hopefully none of them ever play for Celtic again. Scott Bain as well, terrible.
Abysmal. You wonder what Barkas and Connor Hazard must be thinking, seeing that guy in nets just letting everything past him. That's line of duty's back tonight. That's a positive. Yeah. We've got the final part of that, and we may have some sort of news next week. That there's certainly been murmurings. We are, I think, still confident at 67 Hail that Eddie Howe will be the Celtic manager. Not based on any ITK knowledge or anything like that, just what we're hearing from trusted sources, and they aren't deviating from that line that Eddie Howe is going to be the next Celtic manager. So he'll turn things around, won't he? If he comes into the club, I mean, I know it's a tough job ahead of him, but he will. This isn't going to last forever, is it, John? Come on.
No, I mean, new ideas, new players. We need fresh ideas in there. Celtic are clinging on to the legacy built by a manager 2 managers ago. I feel like they're still trying to cling on to that legacy, and that's not good enough when you want to remain as a top club. As I said, that small club patter, Celtic should be striving to be the best, and we've managed to catch ourselves in a downwards cycle and spiral of sentimentality and looking behind rather than looking to the future. And when Eddie Howe comes in, that's the thing he needs to address most of all.
Right, the good news is we've only got 180 minutes of this sorry season to go. After that, we can enjoy our summer and we can look forward to better times for Celtic. It's been another horror afternoon. We've been your live match reaction duo. We appreciate you watching this video. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, I would really appreciate you doing that. We all would at 67 Hail, and we will be back, I think, on Tuesday with some sort of positive topic. Let's see how that one goes. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care and hail.